There is so much bad news in gaming these days. Let's talk about some good news. Now, today's good news comes courtesy of Nintendo and the Pokemon Company because they released a video game called Pokemon Pokopia, which is a smashing success to everybody's surprise. They actually said that they've already sold more than 2 million copies in the first couple of days of the release, and that is crazy considering I thought this game was gonna be a nothing burger. I really didn't think much of it. I mean, I know Pokemon is the most popular thing in the world, and it has been for many, many years, but let's be honest, their video games in recent years haven't really impressed people that much. And when they announced Pokopia last year, and I saw the trailer for it, I was like, okay, this looks like a baby game, and they're gonna sell it for $70. Okay, let's move on. I just, sometimes you see a video game that even if it's a major release, you sort of just like, if you don't like it, you kind of just say, okay, whatever. It's kind of like what happened with High Guard at the Game Awards. It's like everybody saw it and they were like, no thanks. So that's kind of how I initially viewed Pokopia. It looked like a game for kids using the Pokemon license, but that's about it. It just looked like a real simple game and nothing spectacular. And then the next time I heard about Pokemon Pokopia was when it was announced that it was going to be on a game key card. Now, for those of you who don't own a Nintendo Switch 2, this game keycard thing was part of the announcement of the Switch 2. Like, they're going to start putting stuff on game keycards, mainly because the size of certain games is getting too large and they can't fit it all on the game cartridge, but they want to have something in between a regular game card and a digital version of the game. So they came up with this key card thing. So you can still buy a physical copy of the game and you can still resell it. You can sell it to whatever store to get some money back after you're done with the game. But there's nothing actually on the game card itself. You have to put the game card into your system and there's a mandatory download of the game required. So that's what a game key card is. And people were surprised that Pokopia was going to be a game key card because typically Nintendo first-party titles are all on the card itself. Usually the file size of these games is small enough they can easily fit it on a game key card. I'll give you an example. Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, I believe, was only about 3 gigabytes. So yeah, I mean, that's a first-party Nintendo title that was very small in size compared to most of today's video games. But here's the thing about this Pokopia thing. They're saying it's going to be a game key card. So that's another strike against them. So first I see the trailer and I'm like, okay, it's a $70 game for kids. And then that was strike one. Strike two, it's going to be on a game key card. Okay. So right there, I'm like, all right, so let's move on from this game. I've heard enough about Pokopia. Then, I pretty much don't hear anything about this game. I know they released more trailers and overviews. I think they had a Nintendo either Direct or a Treehouse about it. But again, I'm just glossing over it because I'm like, yeah, I know this game's coming out, whatever. Then, when Pokemon Day was approaching, they announced, they being Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, announced that they were going to release some classic Pokemon games, specifically Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Leaf Green, and they were going to be available for the Nintendo Switch 1 and Switch 2. And I was really excited about that because people have been waiting forever for some classic games to be released on the Switch. And a lot of people loved Fire Red and Leaf Green. Those are some of the most critically acclaimed titles in the entire Pokemon series. Those are remakes of the original Pokemon Red and Blue, and Leaf Green and Fire Red were originally released on the Game Boy Advance. And some people were unhappy because they weren't going to put it on NSO. They were going to release it as standalone titles, $20 each. So there was a lot of discussion about that. And Pokopia was still like flying under the radar. Like, this brand new Pokemon game is coming out and nobody's really talking about it. Okay, so finally, the release day comes for this thing. And the thing that raised my eyebrows was that Metacritic, see, I know people don't really like to talk about Metacritic, but Metacritic had it at like an 89 or something. I don't know what it's standing at right now, probably around there, but at one point it was the highest rated Pokemon game ever. It might still be, you know? And that's when I started really like taking a look at this title, because that is not what I was expecting. I thought this was going to be just another bomb, just another game that the internet turns against. If you remember, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had a terrible launch. There were all these technical issues that people thought was unforgivable, you know, especially considering the fact that Game Freak, the people who develop these Pokemon games typically, are not really doing much with the franchise when they release these video games. And it might not even be their fault. That might be what they've been told to do. Just keep releasing basically the same game over and over, maybe little tweaks here and there, but they didn't really move the series forward. Scarlet and Violet launched with, you know, everybody saying, what the heck is wrong with this game? It's all messed up. It doesn't even work. And then they had, they also had Pokemon Legends Arceus, which did get some positive feedback, and people felt like that was moving this franchise in a positive direction. But then they released Pokemon Legends ZA, and it looked like they were going backwards with this Pokemon Legends series, because then people were let down by Pokemon Legends ZA. And like I said, they were already unhappy heading into Pokemon Day because of these $20 releases of games that came out an eternity ago. But then Pokopia saves the day. They came through the back and kicked the door in, and they were like, this is what you guys have been waiting for, the Pokemon game that everyone is going to love. And this thing is selling out everywhere. There are shortages of the game key cards. People are going out and buying the game key cards, and stores can't keep them on their shelves. And that is not what I was expecting at all. I mean, that's freaking crazy that this game has already become so beloved. Again, critically acclaimed, high Metacritic score. It's selling extremely well, and this is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. I mean, this could be, one of the biggest selling Pokemon games of all time as more and more people hear about it through word of mouth. I mean, like, when people heard that this is already one of the highest rated games of the year, that's, I think, when people started taking notice. And then people started going out and buying the game either for themselves or their kids to check it out. And again, it's $70. This is like a generation where kids are typically playing free games. Like, people love Roblox, people love Fortnite, people like stuff like that. But people are apparently going out and buying $70 Pokemon Pokopia game key cards. And, some people might not even have a Nintendo Switch 2. They might go out and buy the system to get this game. This could be the killer app or system seller for the Nintendo Switch 2, which is what people have been waiting for. They haven't had a title on the Switch 2 that is really becoming a worldwide phenomenon. Donkey Kong Bonanza was critically acclaimed last year, and many people think it was one of the best games of the year, but it is not considered a system seller. Neither is Mario Kart World. I always mispronounce that. Mario Kart World. That kind of was, I guess, a bit of a letdown for a lot of people. And so people don't consider that to be a system seller. But this might be the one. This Pokemon game that looks like it's made for kids, that flew under the radar all this time from the announcement up until the release. And now this could be the thing that ends up boosting Switch 2 through the roof. I mean, the Switch 2 has been selling well, but they're waiting for this thing to like skyrocket. And this game might be the game that kids beg their parents to go get a Switch 2 so they can play this game. It is a Switch 2 exclusive. It is not available on the Nintendo Switch 1. So that's key. That's very important, because one of the things about some of the games that have been released over the past year is that they had a Nintendo Switch 1 version and a Nintendo Switch 2 version. So for those people who wanted to play Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, that was available on the Switch 1. If they wanted to play Pokemon Legends ZA, that was also available on the Switch 1, not just the Switch 2. But this is where we're getting an exclusive Switch 2 game that might push people to go out and get the system finally. I have a Nintendo Switch 2. I'm very happy with it. I'm busy playing with Pokemon Leaf Green, so I'm not going to be going out and getting Pokopia, at least not as of yet. It's not really my kind of game. I do like Animal Crossing, and I know this game, it looks like it's kind of influenced by a couple different kinds of games. Pokemon, well, not Pokemon, Dragon Quest, I think Dragon Builders or something. There's a game like that. Also Animal Crossing. But some people say it's even better. I mean, that's crazy. Like, people love Animal Crossing. If this is even better than that, and supposedly it has a more interesting story than expected, so that could capture the attention of adults, not just kids. And it's amazing. It's amazing that this could wind up being one of the best-selling games of the year. It could be one of the highest rated games of the year. It already is, but it could stay that way as the year goes on. So let me contrast this game with something like Resident Evil Requiem. When Resident Evil Requiem was announced, everybody was excited about it. When people found out that Leon Kennedy, which is one of the series' most beloved characters, was going to be in this game, people went nuts. So when that game released and was selling like millions of copies very quickly, that's no surprise. And it was also critically acclaimed, one of the highest rated games of the year. People say it's one of the best Resident Evil games of all time. So the success of that game was expected. It looked really cool. It was critically acclaimed. It has characters that people love. It's from a franchise that is beloved. So that was all expected. When I heard that game was announced, I'm like, that thing is going to own the beginning of this year. Pokopia is the complete opposite. I thought this thing was going to freaking just be immediately flushed down the toilet by the entire fan base of Pokemon and video games. But no, it is the complete opposite. They say don't judge a book by its cover. I think I mentioned that earlier, but when games are $70, you got to judge a book by its cover, because as the prices of games go up, you can only afford, you can't afford, it's not afford, but like, you don't want to just randomly buy stuff and just plunk down a ton of money for a game that might be terrible. But you know what? People took a chance on Pokopia, and now that people know that it's getting positive word of mouth and positive reviews, and it's selling like hotcakes, and it's sold out in so many places, hey, you got to give the Pokemon Company their due. They found a surprise hit. They stumbled upon a surprise hit. But I mean, people might have thought it might be successful because it's kind of like in the model of those kind of building kind of games that kids love. But I mean, who knew that it was going to be this successful this fast? Can you imagine when this year ends, if this game is the highest selling game of the year? Could very well be the case. Congratulations, Nintendo and Pokemon Company. You finally got a win.